Hello friends, here Dr. BC, and today in this video episode I am going to show you the tear down parts view and the assembly of Coolpad Note 3 Lite, and also tell you how to replace the battery on this phone. This is my Coolpad Note 3 Lite, recently purchased from Amazon at a cost of 6,999 Indian rupees. For our previous video on unboxing and quick review of this phone, please click on the link flashing on your screen. Now in this video episode, I will show you how to tear down this phone and how to replace the battery on this phone. Now before proceeding to the tear down, I will tell you the tools you will need for this process. You will need a spudder. Either you can choose a metallic spudder or you can also choose a plastic one. You will also need a tweezer and a Phillips screwdriver. Now to proceed with the tear down, you have to first turn off this phone, press and hold this power button and tap power off to shut down this phone. Now once it is completely shut down, take off the back cover. There is a small notch here. Take off the back cover from that notch and lift the back cover just by pressing this camera lens. That is the flexible plastic back of this phone. Now if you see, there are couple of screws on the back of this phone. There are total 10 screws. Before proceeding to unscrewing, first of all take out the memory card from the phone and also the SIM if installed. Now use your Phillips screwdriver and take off all of the 10 screws from the back of this phone. There is a hidden screw here. Make sure that this screw is also out from the phone before proceeding to the next step. So you can see that I had taken out 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 and 10 screws from the back of this phone. Now it's time to prime the back frame. Now to pry this back frame, you will need a plastic prying tool. Just try to lift the back frame. From here you can see a spacing. It is very easy to get this spacing just by lifting the USB port. You can see that there is a spacing. Now proceed with that spacing towards up. There are a lot of clips that is holding this back frame with the front frame. You can also pry from this side. Just put the prying tool in between this bezel and the back frame. Don't rush throughout this process. This will damage your clips or damage your plastic, and it is very hard to find these parts in the market. You can see that the back is now separated, but still there is a clip here. You can find a clip here. You have to unclip that clip. For that I will unclip from the back. So you can see that it is very easy to take off the back frame from the front frame. Now there is a ribbon connector for this fingerprint scanner which is running from this back frame to the main motherboard. Just unclip that ribbon connector from the main motherboard like that. Now the back frame is separated. That is the back frame of this Coolpad Note 3 Lite. Now let's see the component on this back frame. You will find a camera lens, a flash lens, couple of antenna pads. There are 3 antennas on the top of this frame, and there is one 4G and the 3G antenna on the bottom of this frame. A fingerprint scanner. You can see that is stitched by a very strong glue. You can see that it is stitched by very strong glue to the back of this frame, and I think it is molded. You can see that it is molded. You can see that it is molded. It cannot be separated. So you cannot separate the fingerprint scanner from the back of this frame. If you find some problem with the fingerprint scanner, then you have to replace whole of this back frame. Now on the bottom of this back frame you will find a loudspeaker, and unfortunately if your loudspeaker is not working or sound is low, then you have to replace this part. How to replace? There is a small notch here. use your tweezer and try to lift that loudspeaker up and take off like that. So that is the main loudspeaker of this one. Once you get a replacement part, just use that replacement part, put it like that. The connector pad will facing this side, this one side, align it and press it down. Now the loudspeaker is ready to use. So you can see that it is very easy to replace the loudspeaker or not working loudspeaker on this phone. Now let's keep that frame aside. There is nothing more than that on the back frame. Now let's see the front frame. On the front frame you will find a motherboard, battery, bottom sub PBA PCB, LCD and the digitizer. Now let's first disconnect the battery connector. Battery connector will be disconnected from the here. Use your plastic prying tool instead of this metal because that may short your battery, or you can use a fingernail. Now you can see that the battery is disconnected. Now I will show you how to remove the motherboard on this phone. There are 2 screws. I think there are 4 screws, 1, 2, 3 and 4 screws holding the motherboard back to this front frame. Unscrew that 4 screws. Remember that these 4 screws are black in color. Now all of the 4 screws are taken out from the front frame. Now it's time to disconnect the ribbon connectors. This is ribbon connector for sub PBA PCB which is going here, and that is a ribbon connector for digitizer. Just lift that digitizer IC also because this is a ribbon connector. Yeah, you can see that it is a ribbon connector going to the front side of the display. And you will also find a ribbon connector that is for the LCD. Just unclip that ribbon connector and take it out like that. I think nothing more. Yeah, there is nothing more. Now it's time to lift the motherboard. Just slightly try to lift the motherboard. Yeah, here is you can find another ribbon connector. I think that is for that is for the front receiver speaker. No, I think that is for the proximity and ambient light sensor. You have to unclip that ribbon connector, unclip and take it out. Now the motherboard is released, and there is a antenna cable, that is 4G and 3G antenna cable running from the motherboard to the sub PBA PCB. Just disconnect that. Now that is the main motherboard of this phone. Now let's see the components on this phone. First of all, you will find a camera, that is a front facing 5 megapixel shooter, that is OYL 5F03A0. it is optics is from O film and it is HF48, that is a 5 megapixel front camera. Now let's keep that aside. Now let's disconnect this rear 13 megapixel camera from here. You can see that this is a 13 megapixel rear camera and it has autofocus, that is OYLBA12, and on the back you will find the part number. That is the 13 megapixel rear shooter of this phone. Now in your phone, if the camera is not working or front camera is not working, then you have to replace this camera from the back, and also if front is not working, then you have to replace that camera. Now that is the main motherboard of this phone. Now you can see a couple of sections. You can find a metal section here, a metal section here, a section here. On the back you will find 2 sections. Now all of the ICs and the components are below that metal section. Now to see the sections, I have to first take off this metal shields. Now first try with that one. Yeah, that is the first metal shield. Now let's keep that aside. Similarly, I will take off the second one, this one. That is easily separated because it is small. Now finally this one from this side of the motherboard, and that is the third one. Now let's keep that aside. Now this portion ICs are exposed, that is the rear side of this motherboard. Now let's take off these 2 big metal shields from the front side of the motherboard. Yeah, and these 2 metal shields are separated. You will find a thermal glue on the back of this shields, which is used to dissipate heat from the ICs. Now let's keep that aside. Now That is the main motherboard of this phone. Now let's see the component on this motherboard. Now let's proceed from the rear side of this motherboard. Now that is the rear part of this motherboard. Now let's see the component. You will find a 3.5mm headphone socket, that is a proximity and ambient lights connector, the secondary microphone. This is the connector for the digitizer, SIM tray, connector for sub PBA PCB, connector for fingerprint scanner, battery connector, test point for antennas, SIM tray 2, that is a sub portion, LCD connector. Now let's see the ICs here. You will find a 1, 2 and 3 section on this rear side. Now let's see the ICs on this side of this motherboard. If you see that microphone, it is MEX-A215, that is a microphone, and that is the MHL IC BT. This subsection, you can see that it is a Mediatek IC and it is MT6625 LN, this one, and that is this section I don't know about that. I think that is for couple of radios in this section. And if you see the IC, main IC in this section, you will find that 3785DP, that is this subsection IC, and there is a coil, big coil here, and there is a small IC here, and it is FKD ADEX, this one, the small IC. Now let's see this section. This section contains two IC. One is BZA AL7G, this small IC, and this one I think it is hard to get the number. Yeah, you can see that there is some flux floating on the IC, that's why the number is not clear. Still it is BZO, this one IC. So you can find a couple of ICs or couple of radio section on the rear part of this motherboard. Now let's see the front part of this motherboard. First of all, I will zoom out so that you can see the whole layout of this motherboard. You can see that the front part contain a connector for the receiver speaker, connector for the front camera, connector for the rear camera, that is the power and the processing section, that is volume rocker down, volume rocker up, power key, that is the main connector for 3G and 4G antenna, which will go towards the sub PBA section, and that is a small section. I think that is this one is a Wi-Fi IC, audio codecs, I think that is one, I don't know about. Let's see the part number of this IC. Now let's see this one IC. It is Mediatek MT6328V, that is a main power IC, and it support fast charging, and that is the main processor and the memory. I will show you which one is main processor. That is a Mediatek main processor, this one ARM cores, and that is the memory, a 3GB memory with ROM, this one. And now let's see the Wi-Fi IC, and if you see, it is 77643, that is a Wi-Fi IC, and I think this one 77916, this IC. And now let's see this one, again a radio section. It is Mediatek MT6189V, this one IC. So you can see that major of the ICs on this motherboard is from Mediatek, and you will find a radio section or Wi-Fi section and the main processor, memory and the power section on the front side of this motherboard. So you can see that the major of the components lie on the front side of this motherboard. Now let's zoom out so that I will show you the whole motherboard in one frame. Yeah, that is sufficient. That is the main motherboard of this phone. Now let's keep that aside. Now let's see the front frame. Now on the front frame you will find a battery, and if you want to replace your battery, or if you want to replace a dead battery on this Coolpad Note 3 Lite, then you have to replace this whole section. Need not to remove the sub PBA part or the motherboard part. Motherboard, if you uninstall the motherboard, then it is very easy to take off the battery. Now to lift the battery or to take out this battery, use this type of tool. Make sure that you will not cut this flex cable, and this flex cable which is running or which is going below this battery. Better to use this type of thing. Again, I don't know, just try to insert that. It comes out very nicely. Oh, it is stitched by a very strong adhesive here, you can see that. And with the one stroke I will take out this battery. That is the Coolpad battery model number CPLD382, and it is a lithium-ion rechargeable battery, and the total wattage is around 2500 milliampere hour and 9.5 watt hour. That is the main battery of this phone. And if the battery is not working, then you have to lift that battery from the front frame and get a replacement, put the battery inside and put the back cover and screw all of the 10 screws, and the new battery is now installed. Now I will keep this aside. Now let's see the front frame, and from the front frame you can also lift this sub PBA PCB. Just first disconnect this connector, and also this Wi-Fi, that is not Wi-Fi, that is 3G and 4G antenna connector. Lift that like that, and that is the main wire that is connecting the antenna from sub PBA PCB to the main motherboard. Now let's keep that aside. Now to lift this sub PBA board, there is no screw. Just use your tweezer or plastic prying tool and try to lift the board up. Yeah, you can see that it comes out very nicely. That is the sub PBA board of this phone, and on the sub PBA board you will find a main microphone. I will zoom in so that you can see that microphone. It is 1432, and that is a USB micro connector, and you will find the 1, 2, 3, 4 and 5 pins that is connecting to the sub PBA section, and nothing more on the back side of the sub PBA section. Now let's see from the front. You will find a connector that is connecting this sub PBA section to the main motherboard. That is a micro SD card slot. There is small protection ICs, that is the electrical filters. On this side you will find a connectors that will connect the antenna to the main motherboard from this pin, and that is the main vibrator motor of this phone. And you will also find the two small, I think that is, this is not a LEDs. Where is LEDs? On the main motherboard, that is a flash LEDs. Yeah, you can find the main LED here on the motherboard. This is the main LED, and on the sub PBA section, yeah, you can see that it is not a LED, it is capacitors, SMD capacitors. Yeah, this one. So that is a sub PBA subsection of this Coolpad Note 3. Now let's keep that aside. Also I will zoom out. Now let's see the front section, and on the front section you will find there is a receiver speaker and proximity and ambient light sensor. Now if your proximity or ambient light sensor is not working, then you have to replace this part. That is a proximity and ambient light sensor CP8293. That is the model number of that ambient light sensor or the proximity sensor. Now let's keep that aside. Now finally you can also lift this receiver speaker. If your receiver speaker is not working properly or you will find some problem, then you have to replace this part. You have to very gently lift this receiver speaker, because there is a rubber gasket on the front of this receiver speaker. Just try to lift this receiver speaker. That is the main receiver speaker of this phone. Now if your receiver speaker is not working or there is very low sound from the front part, then you have to replace this part. Once you get a replacement part, just make sure that this connector part is facing down, align it and press it in. Now the receiver speaker is ready to use. So you can see that it is very easy to replace a receiver speaker on this phone. Now there are couple of cables. You can see that this is cable connecting the main motherboard to the sub PCB. That is the flex cable for the digitizer, and that is a flex cable for the LCD. Now there is nothing to remove from this front frame. Although if your LCD or the digitizer is not working, then you have to replace whole of this part. Now to remove the LCD or the digitizer from this phone, you have to just heat this whole unit in a oven at 60 degrees Celsius for around 5 minutes. Then use isopropyl alcohol and use a suction cup to lift this LCD or the digitizer from the front frame. I am not doing that portion in this part of the video because that will take much more time. Now this completed this teardown process of Coolpad Note 3 Lite. Now I will show you the component or the list of the component of this Coolpad Note 3 Lite. That is the list of the components used in manufacturing this Coolpad Note 3 Lite. There is a back cover, 10 screws for the back frame, 4 screws for the motherboard, that is antenna cable, rear camera, that is proximity and ambient light sensor, the front camera, metal shields, main battery, sub PBA PCB, that is back bezel or back frame, front frame with LCD and digitizers with receiver speaker, and the main motherboard. So you can see that this Coolpad Note 3 is assembled through a large number of components. Now this completed the parts view section of this video. Now I will proceed to the next portion of this video, that is the assembly. Now to assemble back this phone, first of all I have to put the sub PBA PCB back to the phone, that is a sub PBA PCB. Just align the sub PBA PCB like that and make sure that this ribbon connector is not coming below that, and once you get perfect alignment then press it down. Now the sub PBA section is ready to use. Now connect this connector. Now the sub PBA section is ready. The next thing that I want to install on this device, that is this flex cable, and this will go like that. Just connect that flex cable here and then align the cable throughout the cutouts. It will go automatically in its position, and now it is aligned and okay to use. Now the next part is to put this proximity and ambient light sensor back in its place. It goes like that. Align it, and once you get a perfect alignment, press it down. Now the proximity sensor is ready to use. Now it's time to put all of the thing back to the main motherboard. First I will put back the metal shields. These shields will go like that. Now the shields are okay. Now it's time to put back the rear camera and the front camera. Front camera will go like that. Connect the connector. Now it is okay. You have to first take care that this adhesive tape will go on the back side. Yeah, align it, and now it is perfectly okay. Now it's time to put back the rear camera. Align it and then connect the connector. Now it is okay. Now the main motherboard is ready to install. Now to install this main motherboard, just make sure that all of the ribbon connectors are not coming in front of this motherboard, and also first connect this ribbon connector, or first connect this antenna connector. It will connect like that. Align the connector and just press it down. Now the antenna cable is connected, and now align the motherboard. Make sure that all of the connectors are not coming underneath this motherboard, and this connector is also okay. Now you can see that the motherboard is settled properly on the front frame. There is a slight problem at here because the antenna cables will come in front of this motherboard. Now you can see that it is settled, no issue. Now it's time to put back the 4 motherboard screws. These are black in color. The first one will go here. Now the main motherboard is settled and installed. Now connect this sub PBA connector, also this digitizer connector, proximity and ambient light sensor connector, yeah, and also this LCD connector. Now it is installed. Now all of the things are connected to this motherboard. Now it's time to put the back battery. That is the main battery. It will go like that. Just go with the top side and then align. Now you can see that the alignment is okay. Once you get a perfect alignment, then connect this connector. Now the battery is installed. Now all things are installed on the front frame. Now it's time to put back this back frame. For that, first just connect this fingerprint cable to the main motherboard. It will go here. Align the cable. Yeah, now it is connected. Once it is connected, just put back the back frame. Press it gently from all sides. Just press it down from here. There is a clip here. Now the back frame is installed. Now it's time to put back all of the 10 screws to the back of this phone. Use your flip screwdriver and put all of the 10 screws back to the back frame. Now all of the 10 screws are placed back to this phone. Now it's time to put back the memory card and the SIM cards. Now put back the back cover, align it and press it down. Now the phone is ready to use. Now press this power button to turn on this phone, and you can see that the display is working. Now let's see the other part. Loudspeaker is working. Vibrator motor is also working. Now the phone is booted up. Fingerprint sensor is also working. Touch is also working. Now let's see the camera. The back camera is also working. Now let's see the front camera. Yeah, front camera is also working. So you can see that it is very easy to tear down this Coolpad Note 3 Lite, and also very easy to replace the battery. Now this completed this tear down parts view and the assembly video of Coolpad Note 3 Lite. If you like this video, give a thumbs up, share and subscribe. The subscription link shown on your screen. And for more videos on this phone and upcoming gadgets, technology and many more, keep watching BCD Tech. Thank you and have a nice day. Bye bye.